welcome to the Irreverent Reader, where I like to discuss books and ideas very quietly. Tonight we're going to talk about Martin Buber's I and Thou, or Ich und Du. The importance of the original title is because du does not exactly translate to thou, but it also doesn't really translate to you. It's a very informal noun or pronoun. In German, which I don't speak, I only know this from research. In German, du is a very particular, has a particular intimacy to it. Now, the original translation of this book, which Ich und Du was written in, published in 1923. Yes, it was published in 1923, and then in 1937, a English version was translated, and they translated it as I and Thou, because thou is the original singular of you. You is actually a plural pronoun, so it's like saying you all. It's the opposite of we, right? But thou has taken on a different meaning. We think of it, of course, as being very formal and only being used by Shakespeare and religious texts. Well, thou was a much more intimate version of saying you, even though it has not come to be known that way. So, I and thou. Throughout this translation, Walter Kaufmann, a man who was fairly famous in the world of philosophy for his translations, I believe of Nietzsche, and then also of Martin Buber, he felt that thou was too formal, too high of a concept for this translation. So throughout this book, when I read, I will be reading I and you, or I you, as opposed to the I thou that I'll be speaking about, because when I came across this book and these concepts, thou felt much more appropriate to me, and so that's just sort of how it's stuck in my psyche. So, who the heck is Martin Buber? Not quite as popular as Nietzsche or as Kierkegaard or any of his contemporaries or his influences. He was an existentialist. There are a few things that are very interesting about him. One is that he was born and came of age in Vienna, Austria. And it's important to know that because of the era in Vienna that he was there. From about 1880 to 1920, Vienna, Austria was a center of culture. It was a place where a renewal of the intellectual zeitgeist occurred. Famous names, some of which you might know, that were there at the same time or were working in Vienna when Martin Buber was coming of age. You might know the name Gustav Klimt. If you don't, I am going to put a very famous painting of his right here. So you might know this. This was painted by Gustav Klimt. Some other famous names of the time: Ludwig Wittgenstein, Arnold Schoenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, with the cat in the box, Schrödinger's cat. He was working in Vienna, Austria at the same time. And one that I really hope you know is Sigmund Freud. So in the same time that Buber was, I'm getting a lot of glare on this book, sorry, that Buber was publishing Ich und Du, Sigmund Freud was publishing all of his works on the ego, the id, and the superego, and the many works of psychoanalysis that he and his wife created. So I think it's very interesting to know that this particular philosophy and this work came out of that Art Nouveau era in Vienna, Austria, before World War II. Okay. So what is I and Thou about? Well, Martin Buber was an existentialist, so he was concerned with the dialogue specifically between, he specifically was concerned with the dialogue between the I and the other. So this takes many forms, and I'll read a few things in here so that you get a bit of an idea. I'll discuss, I'll read a few things, I'll talk a little bit about the things, I'll flip through some pages. But one of the things that I really love about this particular philosophy, it is a theological philosophy. It is religious, and I'm good. But the religious concepts in here are applicable to other parts of life, I've found. Even I have to be a little bit picky about it, but I can extract them and pull them for other information, or for other thought processes, I should say. So another thing specific to Buber is that he thought himself a bit of a poet. He was very concerned with poetics and the communicative properties, the clerical feel that we might associate with religious texts. And the way that he wrote this is a bit prophetic, and in the original German, it was said to have been a little pompous, a bit purposefully obtuse, and translated into English, it's even worse. It's very difficult to read, and because of this, it is a complicated concept, but that's not why the first half of the book is entirely a preface written by the translator. And I feel like this much of a very short book needs to be an explanation given by the translator, then we've got some issues with either the translation or the source material. And really, those issues are that Buber was attempting to be poetic. So, I am not going to read from the preface. It's rather academic, a little bit boring. first because I think that it is the most basic and a pretty good. It's always good to look at where an author starts, I think. The world is twofold for man in accordance with his twofold attitude. The attitude of man is twofold in accordance with his two basic words he can speak. The basic words are not single words, but word pairs. One basic word is the word pair I, you. The other basic word is the word pair I, it. But this basic word is not changed when he or she takes the place of it. Thus, the I of man is also twofold. For the I of the basic word I, you is different from that in the basic word I, it. What? It's confusing. So, I, you, or as I am now going to call it while I'm not reading, I, thou. I, thou, and I, it. So it's a pairing of words. I, it is the relation that you have as an individual, or I have as an individual, or one has as an individual, to other. And there are a couple different versions of other in this case, and I'll read about that for you here in just a minute. The I, it is objectification. So this is how most of us walk through our daily lives. When I am at a restaurant, I do, of course, want to be respectful, to show that I do not wish to objectify other people. If I'm at a restaurant and the waiter is taking care of me, I am not in that moment while I eat my food contemplating that other person's humanity, right? They are my waiter, my waitress. They are an object. They are there to be useful to me. There is a transaction occurring socially, usually monetarily. There are several exchanges of necessity going on. That was my phone. There is the object, the other person, or a tree, or this video camera. This is how we relate to most things in life. Now, that's the I-it relation. Not a relationship, but a relation to. I relate to others as other, right? As an object. Then there is I, thou. I, thou is when we stop objectifying a person or an idea or a thing, and we become capable of seeing them in their wholeness, not just appreciating or recognizing that they have their own ideas and their own opinions, and I respect that. Not just like that. It's a little bit more complicated. I, thou is when you don't just experience another person, you're not just paying attention to them or in conversation or being respectful to them. I, thou is in those connections you find with people. Love can be considered an I thou. That's a very specific and a little bit of flippant description of it. I thou is a complex relation. This is when I see you truly as an equal, not just, I understand that you're a person and we're equal, but when I really see that you are me and I am you. Now, this isn't just for people. This is for other things too. One thing that I thou reminds me of, the wholeness in me recognizes the wholeness in you, which to me feels very much like namaste. The light in me sees the light in you. That concept of not just, wishing somebody well, but communicating a complex exchange of all that you are and all that you can be and all that I am capable of seeing you as. This is the concept that made me go, because I found this book when I was in college, so at least 12 years ago, maybe 15. And it was before I found mindfulness and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to do a meditation on this, is because I find it so compelling. And I find that it is another way to wrap your head around things such as loving kindness and mindfulness and presence. Okay. So this section is going to talk about the different types of relation that this can apply to. 3 are the spheres in which the world of relation arises. The first, life with nature. Here, the relation vibrates in the dark and remains below language. The creatures stir across from us, but they are unable to come to us, and the you we say to them sticks to the threshold of language. That is all a very poetic way of saying it's primitive. It is pre-lingual. So when I feel I, thou, or I experience the I, thou relation with nature, say with a bunny in my backyard, they are not capable of reciprocating the I-thou relationship. So I-thou from individual to nature is a one-way relation. Okay. The second, life with man, here the relation is manifest and enters language. We can give and receive the you. This is simply to say that whenever it's another person, the I-thou relationship, I can give the understanding of thou to you, and you can give it back to me. So it's just to say that there is an emotional or intellectual or maybe spiritual exchange occurring there. The third, life with spiritual beings. Here, the relation is wrapped in a cloud but reveals itself. It lacks but creates language. We hear no you and yet feel addressed. We answer, creating, thinking, acting. We are being, we speak the basic word. With our being, we speak the basic word, unable to say you with our mouth. this, of course, is a religious thing, right? So later in the book, he discusses the eternal you or the eternal thou, and really what he means by that. And he says this in many different ways and in several variations, that he means God. He says that he doesn't like the word God because it's been a bit bastardized, and it's true. He recommends exchanging it with other versions of the same thing, but not that particular word. So, what does that all mean? We feel called, but we do not hear the you. We feel as though something has recognized us as a thou. This, in my mind, as somebody who is a non-believer, this is that drive, that want, that is clearly part of every person's life, right? That need for connection, that want to create, that drive to be a part of something, right? I don't think that it's restricted to religion, and he doesn't either. He actually goes on much, much later in very complex words to say that even the non-believer can access this, the I thou, the recognition, that call that you feel is available to everyone, no matter your religion. He quotes from the Upanishads. He talks about several different religions. He himself was Jewish, and he was raised in the Hasidic tradition, I believe, but he was not raised in the Hasidic tradition, but like the Hasidic tradition, he was anti-rabbinical Judaism, which is a very complex religious, theological politic that I have no opinion on. But he had some very specific ideas and some very staunch beliefs specifically about the culture of Judaism in his time. But he did not deny the spiritual experience to those who were not of his own spiritual faith. And I think that is interesting and allows for this philosophy to be part of any philosophy or any religious or spiritual belief. And you can see I've underlined things. Can you see it? I don't know if you can. There are several things in here that I've underlined, ideas that grab me. So, with his poetic ways and his attention to theology, this book, unless you really want to experience the writing and you really want the source material in your head, which is why I've read it. I've actually read it twice. I have it on audiobook too. But I skip around now. It's a lot to read. I don't necessarily recommend that you go out and buy it. I definitely recommend that you at least take some time to just research the ideas elsewhere on the internet. YouTube has a few not bad videos, but just like the Wikipedia page is good. So, do you see how we could make this into a meditation? I mean, just sitting and thinking of the ideas, of course, is always a good meditation. You can do that anytime, anywhere. But I would like to be a little bit more specific with it than that. one of the things that he says about experiencing any version of I thou is that you can never experience I thou while contemplating or talking about the past. I thou only exists in the present. And that immediately, this go round, it did not the first time, because the first time, like I said, I was not aware of the mindfulness movement, and I had not been introduced to that particular type of meditation yet. But that idea this time around rang quite forcefully with the same concepts in mindfulness and loving kindness meditation. If you would now close your eyes, and with your eyes closed, I'd like for you to take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, I want you to release whatever thoughts you're having, whether you're thinking about the day that you just had, whether you're thinking about tomorrow, whatever it is, wrap those thoughts up in a bubble and just let them go. Just let those thoughts go. And on the next breath, I want you to picture yourself in a line. It can be any sort of line you want. It can be at the grocery store. It could be at the post office or an amusement park. Wherever you are, I want you to see yourself in a long line of people with many, many people in front of you, and there may be many, many people behind you. Wherever you are, I want you to feel your own personal wholeness. In this moment, notice the complexity of your own feelings. Try to comprehend the complexity of your own capability. From your head down to your shoulders and your belly and your legs and your feet, all the way up, front to back. And then, within your own emotions, understand the complexity that you are capable of. While you are standing in this line, you are capable of complex thoughts, deep emotions that can be conflicting or that can have multitudes. You are capable of multitudes. As you stand in the line, I want you to see all the other people. There is you, who is complex in nature, and there are others. You have the ability to simultaneously feel and think and act and anticipate, and you have the ability to decide. There is you, and there are all the others. Now, picturing just the person in front of you, I want you to feel that person's wholeness, not just contemplating their attributes or thinking about the fact that they're capable of the same things as you. I want you to feel in your head, in your toes, in your shoulders, in your back, in your belly. I want you to feel that they are a whole person. Let their wholeness wash over your being. Feel your own complete complex self. Feel their complexity. You are both the same. They are you, and you are them. Now, I want you to choose a person in your life, somebody that you know very well. I want you to picture that person, more than their behavior, more than just their physicality, more than their personality. That person is a full, complex individual capable of the same multitudes as you. Your wholeness and their wholeness are the same. You are both the same. I want you to carry that in your mind and hold on to that feeling. It can be a little overwhelming, but hold on to that idea, that sameness, that fullness, that complexity. You don't need to analyze it. You don't need to question it. You just need to see that it is. That you are, and so is the other person. It is neither good nor bad. It just is. Thank you for watching my video. I know it's a little bit of a wacky, kind of a little bit, it's a little bit highfalutin. The concept is, it's a little bit grand. But I think that it's important to walk through life in a way that you can find connection. Now, that is not to say that you should treat every interaction you have with this intensity. You'd be exhausted. You'd fall down by noon. You can't go through life with this amount of intensity all the time. Some things need to be superficial. Sometimes you just need to go to the grocery store. You don't need to fully experience the wholeness of the cashier at the grocery store. That's not what this is for. Now, don't be rude to them. Be nice. Treat them with the knowledge that they are capable of the same complexity and multitudes that you are. But don't feel the need to give of yourself completely to everyone. Just know that you can. Just know that there is the ability in you and in everyone else, in me, in those that you know, in almost every creature on earth. There is the ability to exchange in this very, very intense, powerful way. So, one more time, go ahead and like and subscribe and ding the little bell at the bottom if you feel like it, or if you just, want to be nice to me today because I'm a whole, complete, complex person. So, I don't recommend it as just a, read for funsies. But I definitely recommend that you take a little bit of time to meditate on or think about this particular concept. I like it. I think it's important.